From the film Holy Moses, Eli Powers, Thaddeus Osta. And as for Jane, we have director Rachel Carey, producers Kate Cortleo and Caroline Hirsch. So I guess it can be interpreted in a variety of ways. Can you sort of discuss a little bit about sort of the symbolism and sort of what the message was?
So I'm only the producer, which means that I can tell you what I understand the director was trying to do. But it's a religious film in that it's about the feeling of having religion taken away from you. He went through an experience, so I can only kind of relate what it was, but he had this thing with his pineal gland where it just like saw everything. He just thought he saw everything. And then it got fixed. And he didn't. And it was that feeling of like for a second thinking that like, oh, this is a miracle and it's here in my hand, and then...
Right. And as far as the locations, where was this actually shot? Was the first part shot? I mean, it was supposed to be Ireland, I believe?
Yeah, it was supposed to be Ireland. It's upstate New York, near Kingston. Okay. And then the Texas was outside of LA.
Okay. Right. All right. So let's talk about Ask for Jane. So, Kate, was this originally a story that you were familiar with, and did it start with you? Okay. So how did that all come about?
Yeah. So I learned about the Jane Collective through a doc that I saw about the history of feminism and women's liberation. And the doc only talked about the Janes for 2 minutes, and I thought it was incredible, and I couldn't believe I'd never heard of this story before. So I went home and I started researching that night, and I just wrote out a little treatment and was like, this should be a film. People need to know about this. This is a huge piece of women's history, and it's a travesty that I wasn't taught it in school, that I've never heard about it before. And then, like, the next day I went to Rachel because I think she's a brilliant writer. We're part of a theater company together. And I was like, hey, here's my little idea. What do you think of making it better and writing it? And she was like, yeah, and I want to direct. And I was like, dope.
So Rachel, then you were presented with the script, and then sort of
yeah, I was presented with the concept. I was really excited about the story. I think a lot of stories about abortion in particular are really, really depressing. And one of the things that struck me as a storyteller was that this was active and a little bit hopeful, and it wasn't just about people dying in alleys. So I thought it was kind of a nice, interesting way to tell that story without it being kind of unremittingly grim, I guess. So I like that aspect of it. It was kind of like a little bit of a heist movie in a kind of social justice setting. So.
Was it shot in Chicago?
No, we shot a lot of Brooklyn for Chicago. At one point, we had a little money. I was like, maybe we'll send someone out to Chicago. And I started looking at pictures, and I was like, it kind of just looks like Brooklyn. So I think
does anybody in the audience have any questions for any of the filmmakers? Questions? Yes.
Not so much as a question as to say that such a difficult time period to get down without cliche, the feeling of cliche, and just the trace of the music and the way the women were dressed, except for your wig.
I didn't have a wig.
Oh, really? You look great now. It was just wonderful. Just absolutely wonderful.
Thank you. I tried to shoehorn as many real stories in there as I could from that. I think that was helpful, just collecting a whole bunch of stuff. But thank you.
The doctor story is your mom, right?
Yeah, the doctor
trying to get birth control.
Trying to get birth control was my mom's story, for example. So.
Any other questions? Yes.
So obviously, like, both of your women and your cast is almost all women, but a lot of your crew was men. And I was just curious, like, what it was like working with them, and were they able to be as equally passionate about this story? Was that something that you kind of were educating them on while producing, or what was that?
I have a terribly amusing to me story about that. I mean, our key crew were women. We had a female DP, and we had who's here? Female production designer and stuff. But I sort of let them bring in people they like to work with, and we did end up with a lot of men. The day I remember, maybe this is inappropriate, but I think it's funny, is when the portions of the female crew discovered that they were all getting their period at the same time.
I don't remember that.
And I was like, this is a good education for our male crew. I bet this has never been a discussion on a film set before. So I think I like to think it was an education for some of them. That was very funny and completely bizarre to the men, I'm sure.
And our co-producer Josh, is it cool if I swear? I can swear.
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
So this is like, he's not a political dude, and this is sort of a departure from the other things that he's produced. But the underlying theme of all of the work that he likes is kind of this like fuck you attitude, like stick it to the man, like, you know, doing the right thing despite what other people say, which this absolutely is. So I kind of like that element of it too. And yeah, I think it was everybody learning about the story, which is incredible.
Any other questions or comments? Yes,
same question, but for both groups. Is there something sort of next on the horizon for you? You mentioned you're part of a theater company, and is there any projects in the work for yourself or for the team that you work with?
So that is, we are working on a feature version of the same story. So I guess that's what's next for that individual group of people. Next for me is bed.
Okay. Yeah. Is there anywhere we could follow the production of the?
horsegodproductions.com/holymoses.
Okay, cool.
Do we see the cow that exploded?
Don't make fun of me for not being able to blow up.
No, I'm not. Because you can see it, but also I like want to see it.
Yeah.
In the future, if you'll commit to giving us some cash right now, we'll blow up 100 cows.
Not effective cow, exploding cow.
You got a question in the back?
One question about Holy Moses. Like, can you elaborate a little more about the experience that happened with the pineal gland?
Yes, except for I want to know what they're doing next.
Kate, do you want to say?
Oh, we're jumping. Okay. Yeah, we are part of a theater company. It's called The Shelter, and it's our 10th anniversary this year. So we're actually putting together this huge week-long festivities at the last week of March. So I'm on a bunch of committees for that and helping put that together, and Rachel and I are both involved. And I'm also trying to write my first feature right now. My sister has this genetic disorder that very few people know about, and it's really horrible, and there's no cure and no plans to find a cure. So I want to write a film that just has a character who has that, and it's not necessarily about that, but just having someone who has that and bringing attention to it. So.
And have a couple of features I would like to make. One is neo-noir, and one is sort of set in 70s Vermont. And I have a couple of other projects. I have a play that's being put up by Cam's company, which is all about female writers across history, which I think you've seen part of.
Oh my God, the Emily Dickinson one is so good.
Yes. It's very funny. So,
Thank you.
So, okay, so yeah, I'm sorry. What was the? You wanted to elaborate?
Oh, sorry. What was the? Remind me.
Just on what sort of experience with the pineal gland that inspired the movie.
Like specifically what?
Yeah,
I mean, I can't go too much into the medical side of it, but basically it was attaching significance and meaning to things that seem miraculous.
Okay.
And so he would call me and he would be like, this truck drove by me and it said Jesus on the side of it. And what is Jesus trying to tell me? And it's for about a few months, and I wish he's unfortunately on set right now, but he tells the story a bit better. But throughout his friend got hit by a truck, and then he kept seeing trucks over and over again. And he thought that it meant something, but he was also kind of just suffering. It was like your hormones, they get out of balance sometimes in your head. And when he found the correct balance, and when things were restored to the right way they were supposed to be, he lost touch with this glimpse of this whole other way of seeing the world. So he wanted to play with that idea of a person who's just living their life, and something very briefly goes very weirdly from what they expect, and the whole town is just sort of like, what? And it's right back to normal.
We have one last question right here.
I had this experience with an ex-boyfriend, but magic mushrooms had something to do with it. What happened to the doctor? Was that character real? And did you have any?
that character was real. It was based on a real person, and he did kind of fade off into the mist. We don't know where he is now, as far as I understand it. So he may, unless he comes to a screening, we won't know for sure. But yeah, that was an absolutely real character who did a great job and was very nice to them and gave them a very affordable rate, and then they discovered was not a doctor. And then he taught them, and then we don't know where he is now. So.
Mm-hmm. And fun piece of trivia that I like to tell is when Rachel first wrote the screenplay, one of the actual members of the Jane Collective, Judith Arcana, came on board as our consulting producer, and she read the script and gave us a bunch of notes and personal stories, which was amazing. And one of the things she did was look at the names of the characters, because some of the people, like the doctor, were never vocal about their involvement because it wasn't a legal group, and he did distance himself from it after and just sort of disappeared into the ether. And we accidentally got the name right, and she was like, all right, you gotta change that. And like my character's name also, we got right by accident, so we changed it to Rose. Rachel gave me a list of names to choose from, and Rose was my great-grandmother, so I chose that.
And none of them were Rose, to our knowledge.
No.
By the way, one thing that the films do have in common is that they're all period pieces. Was there any challenge in making a period piece? And like, I don't know, so like, what were some of the issues that you had?
Cars. Money. But yeah, it was a bit of a challenge. I mean, I think we tried to keep it manageable, but it was tricky. So.
We had a lot of interiors, which made it a little easier, because then you can do the set decorating and not have cars.
I tried to see if I could like catch you. You're good.
All right.
Can I? Just because you created such a easily intimate. Like I didn't have to fight at all to believe. There's just like this great group of friends, and it was just such a joy to watch them as a unit. I'm just wondering what went into creating that group of friends.
That's an interesting question. I'm not sure. I think it was just the dynamics on set. So we got lucky.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people had worked together before, so.
Yeah, and people are still friends. Like I'm still friends with Cody, and I still talk to Allison, who played my mom, and Sarah Steele and Sophie are gonna come next month to the screening. They're still like tight and hanging out, and yeah, it's really sweet.
Okay. And lastly, if anybody wants to see your films again, or let family or friends know about it, when will it be screening again? Where will it be screening? Do you have any more upcoming screenings for Holy Moses?
Yeah, Atlanta, not here. Yeah. Atlanta Film Festival, Omaha Film Festival, and
Omaha.
See you there. Actually, I won't, but you will. I'll tell you the same. And Ashland, Oregon.
Okay. And as for Jane,
so next we have a screening also in New York, but this is the New York City premiere that you just attended, which is cool. Yeah. We're playing March 2nd at the Athena Film Festival uptown, Saturday, March 2nd.
Okay, Columbia.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we're also playing Omaha and Fargo and a couple others that haven't been announced yet. And then we're looking at probably a theatrical release in mid to late May. So more details on that when we have it, but you can go to our website, askforjane.com, and sign up on the mailing list. And also Facebook and Instagram, Ask for Jane.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you, and thank you all.